Being one of the masterpieces in modern-day engineering, the Hong Kong International Airport was built in only 7 years. The completion of the airport marked a new era in the engineering industry and introduced many innovative ideas. It was a crucial factor in sustaining the economy of Hong Kong. To build the Hong Kong International Airport, new bridges, tunnels, and highways were required to connect it to downtown Hong Kong.
Firstly, engineers planned to construct another tunnel on West Hong Kong Island to create a direct route to the new airport. The tunnel had to be wide enough to accommodate 6 lanes of traffic and could span across the mile-long crossing. Engineers devised a plan to assemble the reinforced concrete blocks underwater. These blocks were created in a harbourside quarry 10 miles from the site. The blocks each weighed 30,000 tons and when completed were capped with watertight seals on both ends. They were then transported by water-tug boats to the location. Once at the final location, they filled the sections with water and let them sink. Powerful hydraulic jets then pulled the sections together and created a watertight seal. The tunnel was then complete, lying 50 feet underwater and stretched over a mile long.
Next, engineers proposed for not one, but 2 massive suspension bridges, long enough to span the waterways. The longer section, which spanned for more than 1.5 miles long, would be one of the longest suspension bridges in the world. The suspension bridge could support 6 lanes of cars on top and 2 lanes of cars and trains underneath. The cables that suspended the bridge had to be more than 3 feet in diameter and each weighed around 15,000 tons. However, the suspension cables were too heavy to be lifted up from the ground. Therefore, engineers came up with an ingenious plan to assemble the cables on the suspension towers. 2 spinning wheels shuttled several small strands at the same time back and forth continuously across the towers, each pass adding girth to the massive cables.
A new highway was also required to connect the routes. However, the location where engineers were to build the highway through had a rocky terrain. So engineers came up with another solution. They decided to extend the coastline out into the bay by more than half a mile. The highway, rail, and the airport's power lines would travel over this newly created level corridor. They had to dump more than 25 million tons of rock into the ocean, enough stone to build a 5-foot-high wall from Washington, D.C. to San Francisco.
Although all the roads were coming into place, the airport still faced major problems. For example, one major problem they faced was that the ocean tides were forcing groundwater up into the foundation. If not corrected, that groundwater would push the terminal off its 6 million square feet of foundation. The engineers knew that they could not fight the force of the tides. They needed to secure the building against the steady pressure. Using massive hammer drivers, they pounded huge concrete piles into the earth, each weighing around 25 tons. The piles went through the landfill down to the ocean floor, effectively nailing the terminal to the bedrock.
The next problem they faced was how they were going to assemble the roof of the airport. The roof of the airport, which was made of 126 identical steel trusses, each weighing 140 tons, proved to be a hideous task for the engineers to immobilize. Yet engineers were able to design this simple yet effective machine, a behemoth robot transport crane. It was piloted by a single operator with a remote control. Once at the site, giant cranes stretching over 20 stories high carefully lift every single piece into place. Overcoming all adversities, the construction of the Hong Kong International Airport, one of the busiest in the world, was completed.